Hello friends, and welcome to another VTES game. Today we finally have a 5-player table. One thing I'm trying to do differently in this video is discussing the decks in more detail. Thanks to the players, I received all the deck lists, so during the quieter moments in the narration, I'll be talking a bit more about what everyone brought to the table and what their decks are trying to accomplish. Let's quickly meet our players. First in the sitting order is Michael, playing an Alonzo Petrodon toolbox with Nosferatu support. Second is Jan with Baba Yaga, Nosferatu wall. Third is Marcin, yes, that's a very popular name in Poland, playing ventrue anti-tribu grinder. I'm sitting fourth with Helena toolbox. And finally, number 5, my prey, Peitsa, who is playing Henry Taylor wall twister. Very early at the game, we have a situation that's worth mentioning. An action that could have potentially changed the whole game. Henry plays a sports bike and gets successfully blocked by Alonzo, who has grapple. But unfortunately for Michael, Alonzo can't stop a second round form of Miss Superior. Since you'll be seeing my hand throughout the video and experiencing the game through my perspective, let's start by talking about my deck. In my first video, you saw me playing the Unnamed. In the second, I played Diana. So naturally, the next deck I had to feature a vampire who is both infernal and a Toreador. That's Helena. Helena Advanced is easily one of my favorite Crypt cards in VTES, and I've spent a lot of time trying to build a deck around her. I'm also a huge fan of Helena decks designed by Eduardo Mateus from Portugal. If you haven't seen them before, I highly recommend checking the tournament winning deck archive. And for those of you who enjoy Vampire the Masquerade lore, Helena is also one of the most fascinating characters in the setting. She is inspired by Helen of Troy herself. Homer famously described Helena as beauty, terrible beauty, a deathless goddess, so she strikes our eyes. And the description fits remarkably well. If you're interested in her long and complicated history, from classical knights to her appearances in V5, I strongly recommend reading her White Wolf Wiki article. Now about the deck. To be completely honest, it still needs a lot of work. It's probably never going to win a major tournament, but that's not really why I play it. This is a toolbox deck built around assembling a very specific engine. The first challenge is survival. Helena uses her special ability to play Ausplex and dominate reaction cards at no cost, allowing the deck to defend itself while setting up. Once the setup begins, the plan is to become effectively unblockable with the Toreador Grand Ball, merge Helena, play Concordance and Superior. This is one of the most important cards in the deck. The stealth penalty doesn't matter because my actions should already be unblockable. And thanks to the card I'm gaining flight, extra strength, protection from aggravated damage, and the ability to unlock for 1 blood during the influence phase. And that's incredible. Next step would be adding a Rotor Hand for another additional unlock, adding a Helicopter for additional unlock, and establishing Kaimaki Fragment's bloat strategy to gain pool each influence phase, and possibly, if my pool is not in danger, influence Alexandra for another unlock. Then the ousting strategy should be using Shroud of Decay on Superior. I know that sounds complicated, and honestly, it is. The deck requires patience, a lot of setup, and several moving pieces. But sometimes that's exactly how I enjoy playing VTES. Not because it's the strongest deck, but because it's fun. We can finally start talking about the actual game. Jan has been incredibly unlucky so far. Despite running 5 copies of Baba Yaga in his Crypt, he failed to draw a single one in the top 5. It took him nearly 30 minutes to influence out the Star Vampire his entire deck is built around. Until now, Jan has essentially been playing with one hand tied behind his back. Jan's Baba Yaga deck relies heavily on retainers for permanent intercept and additional combat value. Jan builds exclusively in V5 legal format, regardless of the other players' decks. Jan's deck plans to win by defending cards like Smiling Jack and Creeping Sabotage, while disrupting opponents' actions by gradually taking control of the table. It wasn't just Jan having a slow start. It took me over 30 minutes to merge Helena as well. Just to play Legacy, I had to place Pentex on Neighbor John. Even worse, after digging through roughly a third of my library, I still haven't found a single copy of a Toreador Grand Ball, and I run 6 copies. At this point, I'm beginning to wonder whether the deck is simply refusing to cooperate. Other players seem to be doing much better. Marcin is quietly becoming the strongest player at the table. He already has 4 minions in play and somehow remains at 20 pool. Thanks to Vessel, keeping the edge, and Power Base Barranquilla, he's gaining around 3 pool every single turn. Fortunately for me, most of his pressure is being redirected or blocked, so my own pool total remains healthy. Whenever I run out of lead bounce, Marcin often chooses to hunt instead of bleeding, convinced I'll just simply bounce again anyway. Another important moment of the game happens between me and my prey. Peitsa locks Milo to play Anima Gathering on Henry, in that way completing most of his deck setup. I have an intercept on hand and can attempt to block, but instead, as I didn't play the ground ball yet, I decided to strike a deal with Peitsa. The deal is that he won't block me playing Concordance, and I don't block his action. Without the ground ball, I really need to make difficult choices and count that the situation will occur when Baba Yaga will push anti-ventrue so hard that neighbor John will be busy enough with other things that he won't mind me doing this insignificant little action. And that's when I will be asking my prey to fulfill his end of the deal. Peitsa is doing great as well. His predator, that's me, is occupied with preventing his bleeding predator from damaging his pool. So Peitsa is not blocked by me. Peitsa's combo is fully online. He has 2 creeping sabotages, Anima Gathering on Tyler, and all the support pieces he needs. Henry is steadily draining Alonzo's pool with creeping sabotage, and there isn't much Michael can do about it until he finds Immortal Grapple. At this point, Henry's engine is fully online, which means every combat threatens to become an endless chain of earth melts. Marcin had been in a fantastic position all game. No predator pressure. A prey that refuses to get ousted, but otherwise doesn't cause any major problems. Excellent resource generation and a space to grow. But now, the situation is changing. Baba Yaga, the monster from dark Eastern European fairy tales, is finally awake and ready to stop her prey's minions' plans by breaking their bones and sending them to torpor. Maybe that could create some breathing room for Helena? Assuming I can finally draw the cards I need. At almost 1 hour mark, Michael's position is hard to define. On one hand, he is beginning to suffer slowly from his cross-table buddy Helena not being able to set up and block Michael's predator. But on the other hand, Michael managed to find preternatural strength and influence a couple of support vampires. He can't reliably go through Henry's defenses or win combat against him. At the same time, Baba Yaga is slowly becoming active in front of him. What started as a comfortable position with a slow predator and an inactive prey is becoming much more difficult. Michael was playing Marcio's Pineiros tournament winning deck from 2019 Brazil. Alonzo Petrodon is the star of the deck and can often carry the entire strategy on his own. The deck focuses heavily on animalism and potence combat, while still maintaining a strong package of action and reactions. It doesn't try to do everything, it simply does a few things very efficiently. Peitsa's Henry Taylor Twister Wall is built around a new unique combo. Henry's special allows combat cards he plays to return from the airship to the top of the library. As long as Peitsa has access to 2 Earth modes and avoid being grappled by an opponent in combat, he can repeatedly recycle combat ends. The deck wins slowly by defending Smiling Jack and Creeping Sabotage, while Henry becomes increasingly difficult to deal with. To allow defensive options, Henry plays Mr. Winthrop, Sports Bike, and Anima Gathering. Marcin is playing his version of the classic ventrue anti-tribu grinder archetype. The deck spends most of the game performing low-impact actions, gradually building resources and board presence. It punishes blockers through efficient combat while remaining difficult to oust thanks to a lot of bleed bounce, delaying tactics, intercept, and strong defensive tools. It rarely sweeps a table, but it rarely dies early either. We are finally beginning to see Baba Yaga exert real pressure on the table. Marcin makes a costly mistake by hunting with a vampire carrying Fame, allowing Baba Yaga to send it to torpor and immediately punish him for the mistake. You may also notice that we can now see more of other players' hands. That's because Jan has played All Companion. It's not a card I'm usually excited about, but I must admit it's excellent for making videos. After Marcin's turn, I finally get to play another crucial piece of my puzzle. concordance. Marcin's vampire with fame is diablerized by one of Michael's minions, in an attempt to prevent both Marcin and Michael from losing additional pool each turn. At this point, Michael is fighting to survive until time is called. Meanwhile, Baba Yaga continues strengthening her position with additional retainers, creeping sabotages, and interruptions to her anti-ventrue Prey's minions' actions. The Nosferatu Matusalem is slowly becoming the table threat everyone has to respect. And finally, after all this time, I draw the last two missing pieces of my puzzle: Toreador Grand Ball and Rutor's Hand. By the way, if you've been wondering why I play Narrow Minds in this deck, the answer is simple. Regardless of any additional cost, Helena still bounces bleeds for free, while everyone else pays additional blood. In theory, that should slowly drain resources from the table and reduce the chance of bleeds being bounced to me by other players. At this point, the game is clearly entering its final phase. My chances of winning are slim, but for the first time all game, I finally have the most of the engine assembled. If I can survive just one more turn cycle, I might actually get to show what this deck was designed to do. Peitsa agrees that Baba Yaga has become the primary threat and attempts to remove Crypt sabotage across the table. With Baba Yaga finally running low on wakes, Michael manages to remove one of the creeping sabotages. The final turn becomes a desperate fight for survival. Michael and Marcin are both hanging on by a thread while Baba Yaga attempts to finish the game before time is called. Marcin barely survives after bouncing a bleed of 4 to me, which I decide to take. That narrow survival means I finally get another turn. For the first time all game, Helena gets to do what she was built to do. I play Kaimaki Fragment, I perform the Kaimaki Transfer Down action, and just to show that I steal by grave robbing a vampire from Michael. All unblockable. Unfortunately, it's too late to change the outcome of the game. Peitsa takes one final attempt at ousting Michael, but falls just a single pull short. The action to remove the famous vampire is likely what kept Michael alive. The game ends due to time. No dramatic sweep, no giant comeback. Well, maybe except Baba Yaga. But at least Helena finally got to spread her wings.